Hi everyone, just back from the field. Had a pretty good flight session. Got 10 good flights in. Evaluating, for my initial evaluation of the FlySky FS-i6 transmitter. That's new to me, and then I picked up to evaluate as a beginner park jet transmitter. So anyway, pardon me. I was the radio. I did notice how much lighter it is. I think in the flight video where I talked about this briefly. I just wanted to do a bit more in-depth video here now after, because I got several more flights in after I shot that flight video, as well as, had some time to collect my thoughts. I think I misspoke. This is actually about 360 grams lighter than my Turnigy 9X, with the batteries in. So I definitely noticed, the fact that it felt lighter and was smaller, thinner in my hands and a little bit narrower. But it didn't feel like I was handling a toy or anything. I mean, it felt like I felt like I had a good transmitter in my hand. Now I mentioned at the field, I did find, and maybe this is part of it, is the sticks I found are super smooth. Like, I'm flying mode 2, so I've got, this is spring loaded here on the right. And the spring on my Turnigy 9X, even though it's about 3 or 4 years old, is still quite a bit stiffer. Now I think I could probably, watching Bruce Simpson from RC Model Reviews, I could probably take the back off and adjust the tension on this a bit if I wanted to, but I don't think I bother. It's not that big a difference, and I think it's just a matter of, it took me a couple of flights to adjust. But the sticks are very, they're very, very smooth. And I think that that's part of the first flight. I found them to be, even though I had about 16% expo, which is a negative value in this transmitter compared to a positive value in this transmitter, I did find that the plane was responding quite a bit faster, really, than I wanted it to. But again, that could be part of just adjusting to the sticks. So after the first couple flights, I actually went in and I added another 10% of expo, and then I found that that was actually a bit too much. There was just that slight little bit of hesitation and delay, because after you fly a certain way for hundreds and hundreds of flights, it's just muscle memory. You anticipate, I'm going to move the stick this much and the plane's going to respond this fast. So what I ended up doing was I went back in and I reduced the expo down. So now I think I'm where I started off. I was at 16%. I went up as high as 26, and now I'm back down at 22, and that seems to be giving me sort of the equivalent feel of what I am used to in this Turnigy 9X. And I think that that's totally acceptable, because every transmitter, I think, as you go from one transmitter to the next, 20% expo in this may feel a lot different than 20% expo in this, as well as the throws. Percentages of rates, that sort of stuff is going to be a little bit different. I did notice in my the roll, especially the roll axis, that my plane was rolling considerably faster than I wanted it to. It was just essentially rolling like a bullet, which, so I didn't want it to roll that fast. So I also adjusted I went into the Elevon mix, and I adjusted the channel 1 portion, or the aileron portion of the Elevon. I adjusted that down by about 10%. And then I also went into my 2 mixes, which, if you watch the video where I fine-tune this, my ailerons are in mix 1 and mix 2, slaving channel 5 and channel 6 to channel 1, which is the aileron. I reduced the positive, and the default is 50% positive and negative. I reduced that each by 10%, and that brought my roll rate down to what I was comfortable with. So it was pretty easy to adjust. I didn't spend a lot of time messing around, just adjusting that, just a quick adjustment, and with the expo and the throws in the roll, and it was pretty good. So the sticks, again, it didn't take me too long, just a few flights to get used to the difference in tension compared to my Turnigy 9X. I had mentioned in the last video, and I think in the last sort of table talk video, I might just experiment with slightly longer sticks. These sticks here, which fortunately are the same thread, they're I think a JR stick, replacement stick I ordered from Hobby King. These are about the bottom piece. They're actually two pieces, so you can actually adjust them up and down, I suppose, if you want. This bottom piece here is on the FS-i6 is about 3, maybe 4 millimeters shorter than the ones on the 9X, and those are the ones that I ordered, replacement ones I ordered from Hobby King. They were on sale. I think I got them for $1 or something. Pretty crazy. So anyway, we'll experiment with that. They're also metal. These are plastic as well, but I think they'll hold up okay. I found that the trim switches, as I was retrimming the plane, because essentially it was like remadening it after going from one transmitter to the next. That the trim switches are really, they've got nice solid feel to them and very, very easy to adjust the trim. So I was very pleased with that. As I was getting the trim sorted out. So very good that way. I did have to get, because I was flying in kind of windy conditions, I did have to get, kind of aggressive on the sticks a few times, and it responded. Everything responded super well. No scary surprises. Range-wise, I was, as I mentioned a bit at the field, I was using one of my single transmitter or single receiver or single antenna receivers, the Hobby King ones, which actually works in AFHDS mode. Whereas if you use the 2 antenna receiver, you're in AFHDS 2A. I'm probably flying maximum, 250, maybe, I don't know, 300 meters maximum. So for my use at the field where I fly, it's, I don't think that range is ever going to be any kind of problem. I never had any issues with hesitation or servo brown out or anything like that. So I think it was getting, I had a good solid lock between the transmitter and the receiver the whole time. So very pleased with that. The batteries, battery usage. I put 4 freshly charged NiCad, rechargeable batteries in it before I went to the field this morning, and I think my voltage was at about 5.85. These batteries are a little bit old, so they're not going to go right up to 1.5 volts per battery. And by the time I was done flying, I was actually down to 5.15, I think. Again, you're out at the cold, a little bit colder than it is here, obviously sitting in my office. And they have recovered now. They're back up to about 5.25. So I would feel very comfortable that I would be able to just put freshly charged NiCads in here and go out and fly all day long, and maybe even be able to fly again the next day. The cutoff, the voltage alarm goes off at 4.2, I think, according to the manual. So I think I've still got plenty of voltage there, and it sort of dropped down to like 5.2 and stayed there for quite a while. But I think long term for me anyway, it's going to be really useful to have those rechargeable NiCads that I can just throw in the little wall unit, charge overnight, and then make sure that I have good fresh batteries. Rather than buying batteries off the shelf at the store, using them and then and throwing them away. I think this will be a far better setup. The inactivity alarm I did find a little bit annoying. It starts to go off after a minute if you've done nothing with any of your switches or your sticks, which I suppose is good. If long term you want to be able to save your battery, to remind you to shut your transmitter off. But I would be walking out to the if I landed fairly far away from me, let's say, I'd be walking out to the plane, and on the way back the thing would start beeping, until I touched the stick or flicked a switch and made it stop. I think with the firmware upgrade that I'm doing, looking at everything that comes in the sort of the firmware bundle that I'm looking at flashing on this, I think that it comes with some alarm capability to set about 3 different alarms. So I might be able to change that inactivity alarm to maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just so that I fly, come back, put the thing down, pull the battery out, put a new battery in, and this thing isn't sitting there beeping away, annoying me and other people at the field. But that's pretty minor, a minor thing. So yeah, overall, for $40, I mean, essentially which is what I paid for this on sale. Very Very, very impressed with how it feels. You know, how I'm able to handle it and fly the plane. Again, it'll be very, very convenient to have that built-in timer rather than, you know, remembering to start my countdown timer on my watch and then, you know, launch my plane. It'll be far more convenient to have that on a switch. But, you know, that'll come when I get the cable so that I can upgrade the firmware. And maybe, again, change that inactivity alarm. But those are, you know, the inactivity alarm's fairly minor. To me, anyway, the timer's a bit more important. But hopefully we'll get that sorted out with the firmware upgrade. So yeah, very, you know, for a $40 transmitter, you know, it feels good in my hand. I mean, again, I'm only 10 flights with it, but felt really good in my hand. I had no problem. You know, I didn't feel like I was fighting the transmitter to control my plane. It was, you know, it's nice and light in my hands and easy to move the sticks around. Nice and smooth. Didn't feel anything jerky at all. The trim buttons are good and solid. So yeah, moving forward, I'm very impressed. You know, I think that this is definitely a good beginner transmitter for park jets, and we'll see how it goes, you know, long term. But yeah, I'm very, very, very impressed. Again, I'm not going to throw away my Turnigy 9X, but because once I flash my backup one with OpenTX, then obviously my mixing and fine tuning will be only limited by my imagination. But yeah, big 2 thumbs up, not while I'm flying, but 2 thumbs up for this transmitter thus far. Very, very impressed with it, especially for the price. So there we go, folks. There's my initial impressions. You know, after flying for the first time with my FlySky FS-i6, really impressed with its performance for its price thus far. And yeah, thanks for watching. Blue skies, calm winds to everyone. Park jet noise, the other sound of freedom, baby. Take care.